Think we're live. Hey, welcome to the Massive Iron Channel. I'm Steve Shaw. I'm joined by the supplement engineer, Robert Shinetsky. Appreciate you guys appreciate you joining me, Robert. How are things going down in Tejas?
So far, so good. We got together with some friends for a crawfish boil on Memorial Day this past Monday, one of the local restaurants. For the people that don't know, I'm from Louisiana, hence me always wearing an LSU hat and wearing LSU paraphernalia and everything.
Right.
One of the local restaurants, crawfish boils are a thing that we do a lot in the springtime. So for Memorial Day, since people aren't doing a whole lot of barbecues, one of the local restaurants did a crawfish boil package. So we picked up some of that, went and hung out with some family friends here in the neighborhood that we've gotten close to since our move here to Texas, and it was an enjoyable time. And then tomorrow we're going to hit one of our favorite distilleries, Iron Wolf, out in Spicewood, Burnett County. No masks, everybody's relaxed, everything's cool.
Nice.
It resembles normal life. There's nobody freaking out over everything. It's nice. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
Well, I appreciate you joining us. Just to let anybody know, a couple of notes. If we do not see your questions, it is not us ignoring you. Please post them up again. YouTube has a nasty tendency to not post all questions. So if we completely miss your question or you tune in late, you can send me a question on Instagram at BenTheBarman, slide into my DM. You can also email me, benthebarman@gmail.com. Robert, what is your Instagram if anybody has a question for you?
The Supplement Engineer.
And you can also find Robert on YouTube at The Supplement Engineer and his podcast, The Supplement Engineer, which is one of the best industry podcasts. So check that out. And Robert, you're turning this into a podcast. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I did. I uploaded our last Friday's episode for today. So I release 2 podcasts every week. The Tuesday episode is usually an interview with some titan of industry, be it a supplement brand owner. A few weeks ago, I had a bodyweight training expert, Matt Schifferle, on there. He runs the Red Delta Project. I've had John Meadows on the podcast before. I've had you on there just, for us shooting the shit a couple of times. And I see in the comments here, somebody was asking about Doug Miller and Core Nutritionals. I just interviewed Doug this past Tuesday, and that episode will be airing live this coming Tuesday. So June, 2nd? We'll be discussing everything they want to know about Core Nutritionals, Merica Labs, and Arms Race Nutrition. So the three-headed beast of companies that Doug owns.
Well, we're going to dive into that real soon. Before we do so, guys, post up your questions. Diet, training, nutrition, supplementation. Nothing is out of bounds, off-topic stuff. We just don't want to talk about drugs because this is not a drug channel. This is a fitness, health, longevity, etc. channel. It is about power building. It is about being your best self. So please avoid the tedious drug questions. And let's see. Robert also offers a supplement assessment. And people are taking advantage of this. Head over to superlivingtoday.com. It is right up there, superlivingtoday.com. With supplement assessment, Robert will help you save money. He'll give you the no bullshit advice on what you should be taking, what is best for your goals, etc. All right, let's dive in. Post the questions up, guys. We will stay on as long as we can.
I'll say, well, that also extends to nootropic stacks. If people, it doesn't have to necessarily be a muscle building supplement question or joint health. It can be nootropics optimization for cognitive function, helping you get more shit done during the day, since a lot of people are still homebound and whatnot.
All right, Kirk says, I'm a fan of Doug Miller and his line of subs. My question is regard to his natty status. I'm just going to say, I mentioned this, and I'm going to read this. This is a lifting and fitness channel. My goal is to help folks improve their health, bodies, and lives. I have no interest in discussing who is natural and not. I've met Doug. He's a good guy. His supplements are legit quality. I trust his products, but each individual product should be analyzed. Maybe I can have Robert weigh in on the line. I just want to say before you weigh in, I've met Doug. I've done a podcast with Doug at Tiger Fitness. I like Doug. And I don't like many guys in the industry. Let's just put it like that. I'm easy to get along with, but Doug is a really good guy. He really cares about his products. And with that said, you should analyze every product compared to current science and research to make sure it is up to speed. Robert, any thoughts on his line?
I would echo your sentiments pretty much to the T, Steve. He is committed to, transparent labels, doing things by the book. there was a reason, they'll hear this in the episode if they tune in this coming Tuesday, but he is basically of the mindset that he started creating supplements because there was so much shit out there in the industry. It was either underdosed or it was a prop blend, or it was spiked with all kinds of other kind of chemicals that, would get you busted if you were a drug tested athlete of some kind. So when his approach to philosophy is first to formulate products that he himself would use, if there's a research-backed dose in you using human trials, they're going to err on the side of that. You can see that from the dosing, from the price point on the stuff. Their stuff isn't cheap, but there's a reason for that. Quality ingredients and legit doses cost money. And I don't receive any money from Core. I don't even consult for them. I've never done any writing for them whatsoever. My first interaction with Doug on a person-to-person basis was the podcast this past week. I've used their products in the past, buying them, but I don't receive anything from them. So this touting the good things that his company is doing serves me no direct benefit. But I would say they are one of the good companies in the industry. They make really good products, hard-hitting products, and basically something to fit every niche that you would need.
Yeah, Core does really, really well over at Tiger Fitness and wherever else they're sold. I'm not really sure. But, Doug is just a good, decent family man. I interacted with him first and his crew when I was at Muscle and Strength. I'm trying to remember. There was a writer. What was his name? Craig or something that used to be associated with him. I used to hang out with his whole crew and, not hang out. They'd come to the gym and lift. We'd do some lifting together. Yeah. Really, really smart guys. They really care. The supplements are a little bit more expensive, but with that said, you're not getting a big tub of goo. So
exactly.
All right. Paul says, greetings from Vancouver. Hope all is well from Vancouver. We'd love to hear where you guys are from. So let us know where you're tuned in from. Let us know how the gym action is going in your area. And if your gyms are opening up, a lot of my clients are regaining gym access, which is a wonderful thing. All right. Brandon says, Matt from Red Delta is an awesome guy. I don't know either of those. Robert, you know Matt at all?
Yeah, I've had him on the podcast twice. So body weight training is something I've always been very much a fan of, and always looking for ways to kind of see how to balance that with lifting weights. He's somebody whose content I first came around probably 2015 or so. It's very basic, by the book stuff. There's not any frills. There's no gimmicks or anything. His thing with calisthenics, it's not the circus tricks where you're doing like one arm levers and stuff. It is to manipulate body weight training to give an effective muscle building stimulus using minimal equipment and minimal hassle to your life.
Yeah, that's Ross Animate is along the same lines.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ross Animate, his book Never Gymless, it was probably the only bodyweight book I ever was really interested in picking up. And Ross is legit. And I'm assuming Matt is a lot like him. If you really want to master bodyweight training, and there's nothing against all the gimmicky one-arm lever stuff, but if you really want to use it and maximize the muscle building process, you could probably benefit from checking out Matt and definitely from checking out Ross. All right, what do we got next here? I'm going to hit this one, Robert, first, and then I'm going to let you chime in and tell me if I'm full of bullcrap. Is there any truth to muscle memory? Yes, there is truth. Once a muscle cell is fortified, it is fortified for life. I believe the muscle cell, when you are lifting, you add extra mitochondria into the cell. It is strengthened for life. When you're detrained, it's like you can take all the furniture out of the room, but the room is still, it's like putting an addition on your house. It's still there. So when you come back into the gym, you're going to find that your strength and your muscle come back a lot more quickly, not just because of muscle memory, but also things because of confidence. You know you can get there. You've been there before. You don't fear the weight as much, et cetera. Robert, any thoughts?
Yeah. Just to extend on that. So when you've got your muscle fibers, when you train them in their stress, you have these things called satellite cells, and they donate myonuclei, so additional nuclei into the muscle fibers. So your muscle can expand a certain amount based on how many myonuclei it has. So as you consistently train it, it'll get bigger, 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 all getting more myonuclei into it the longer you train. When you stop training, your muscles obviously going to atrophy and shrink a little bit. That's just going to happen it's a detraining effect. However, those myonuclei that the satellite cells have donated don't leave the muscle fiber. So that's why when you start getting back into training, your muscles can blow up back to their original size and you gain that strength that much quicker. You've also got some neurological adaptations that are going on. Liken it to riding a bicycle. So you may not ride a bicycle for 10 or 15 years. You can still hop on a bicycle and ride it with some decent amount of proficiency. The same thing is with a squat or a bench press. Your brain creates all these different little communication pathways in it to optimize a specific movement, given how long you've done that movement throughout the course of your life. So if you squatted 3 times a week from the time you were 15 to 30, and then you took off a 10-year break and you come back to it at 40, you're still going to understand how to squat with some relative degree of proficiency. It might not be as great as it was when you were, 25 or 30, but it's going to come back to you much quicker based on those neurological adaptations you first had, and plus with the enhanced myonuclei base that's in the muscle fibers inherently from your previous training.
Thanks, Robert.
Yep.
I just want to let everybody know, just a personal thing. I am doing on December 3rd through the 6th at Four Corners Monument. I'm doing 4 marathons in 4 days because I'm fat and out of shape, according to some YouTube comment. But I always want to extend an invitation to anybody in that area, Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, and Colorado, whatever. I'm sorry, I haven't been down there in a while. Anybody that wants to come out and join me or support me, you can do 5Ks each day. You can do 10Ks each day if you want to come out and challenge yourself with the fat old guy with the round face that's out of shape with no muscle and he's weak. Please send me a message on Instagram at Ben the Barman. All right,
crazy.
Yeah. Remember, I'm fat and out of shape, Robert. Fat and out of shape. All right, Logan Torrance. Can you explain a deload, its benefits, and how to do one? Robert, I took the last lifting question. I'm going to have you chime in, and then I'm going to pound the nail with the hammer. Go ahead.
All right. Deload basically serves to do a couple of things. If you're in the more of like the strength building, powerlifting kind of crowd, it gives your muscles, joints, ligaments, and connective tissue a chance to kind of recuperate and refortify. It also gives your body and your mental state a chance to kind of unburden some of the stress and rekindle some of that passion and fervor. So if you've been grinding your balls off for 6 or 8 weeks in the gym, by the end of that time, there's only so much overload you can happen before fatigue starts masking your ability to progressively overload in the subsequent session. So you might have been getting stronger over the weeks and been able to knock out more reps. But because you've accumulated so much fatigue over the previous few weeks, you're not going to actually be able to exert that newfound strength that you've received into the weights. So that deload week is giving your body more time to recover. It's reducing the amount of stress so you can allow for that super compensation to happen so that when you do come back to the gym, you are stronger, you're bigger, and then also mentally you're more excited to give it all in training again. As far as that, also, muscles can recover pretty quickly, but the deload also gives more time for those underlying support structures, so the joints, ligaments, connective tissue, all of that good stuff, because that is a little bit slower to recover than muscle tissue is.
Yeah, one of the when it comes to deload, and I've talked about this a lot, for guys that are basically in their first couple of years in the gym, and they're still learning the process of muscle building, they're still building strength. I really don't like scheduling arbitrary deloads, and here's why. And this is just my personal opinion. You need to listen to your body. If you feel mentally fatigued with your program or physically beat up, then it's don't just say, I'm going to take a deload week. Take a day off, an extra day off, 3 days off. Take it day by day. And when you're feeling better physically or mentally, then get back into the gym. That's when I like to intuitively take deload days. And I don't like arbitrary things. So I don't like arbitrarily saying I'm going to take a week off. And also save your rest days and your deload days, for vacations and when you're sick, and when you have personal things going on, holidays and all that kind of stuff, because there's only so many days you want to take off from the gym each year. So we have to kind of look at the bigger picture. And in the bigger picture, when you're not going to the gym when you're sick or when you have your birthday or when you're going on vacation, then we got to kind of take seriously how much extra time we take off from the gym. So I would really consider taking your deload time when your body physically or mentally needs it. And so that's my opinion, and you can take it for what it is worth. All right, Robert, BCAA question. Are BCAAs that important to where I should take it? Are they so important that he should take them regularly?
If you are consuming enough protein throughout the day, no, you don't need to take BCAAs regularly. If you're going into a fasted training session, like you just get nauseous or a stomach upset, and so you can't take a pre-workout meal, you can't have something in the hour or two before your training, yeah, you could make an argument that sipping on some BCAAs or EAAs intra-workout could help stave off some of the potential muscle breakdown that may happen. But I don't look at it as anything that's going to provide any acute or substantial tangible benefit, other than it might help you drink some more water and stay hydrated better during training. But as far as massive muscle gain or superhuman recovery, no, it's been massively overblown.
All right, thanks, Robert. We got one of our faithfuls, Ben on Adventures. Hey, fellas, in terms of exercise variety, how many should you say if you have 16 sets for a muscle group? It's kind of complex, but it's not overly complex. You obviously, if you're doing 16 sets for a muscle group each week, I like to set a goal personally for 6 sets of compounds, about 6 sets of compounds. That's not a rule. That's just my general guideline. So for shoulders, I might do a barbell and dumbbell overhead press variation. For bench, I might do a barbell and dumbbell press variation. For legs, I might do squats and leg presses. And then after I get the 6, maybe 7, maybe 8 sets of compounds, the rest of the stuff is like a sliding scale. Machines, cables, body weight, whatever you really like to do. So, and generally, from a hypertrophy standpoint, 3 sets is kind of the scientific standard, but don't overthink this stuff. If you want to do a little bit more on one exercise, a little bit less on another, it all shakes out in the end. Any thoughts, Robert?
Yeah, I personally, and I think a lot of people kind of fall into this too, you don't want to do 5 or 6 sets of the same exercise. Just by the end of it, mentally you're overdoing that. You're not going to push as hard on set 6 of an exercise as you are on the first 2 or 3 sets. After that 3rd or 4th set, I'm ready to move on to another exercise. And you could say that's maybe exercise ADD, but I'm not doing 16 different exercises to get in my 16 sets of weekly volume. If it's, if I'm training back, it's going to be, 3 or 4 exercises, and I'm going to get my 16 sets in that way. The max I like to do on a given exercise within a given training session is probably 4 sets. After that, I'm ready to do some other kind of variation just for, a novel mental stimulus, if anything, just to push harder and move and attack the muscle from a different angle or force vector.
Yeah, generally, I don't like to do more than 3 sets per exercise. I will tell folks, when I was at my strongest, after I lost my 100 pounds, I would go in on bench and I would work up to a heavy single, double, triple, or 5-rep set, depending on how I felt that day. And that would usually be anywhere from 365 to 405 working weight. Then I would drop down for my second set, 315 for max reps. Where are we? My third set, 275 for max reps. My 4th set, 225 for max reps. So I'd usually do at least 4 sets, sometimes 5. But then I would back off, do push-ups, 2 sets by max. I would also do like guillotine presses or dumbbell bench presses for 3 sets or 2 sets, and then do a machine chest press, and then maybe an isolation. So it's very rare when I'd go over 3 sets per exercise.
I've done a few training programs where I'm doing 5 sets on an exercise, and I don't enjoy those as much as if I'm just doing it for 3 or 4 sets. 5 sets of Bulgarian split squats after a while really, really sucks. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I've been recommending people do block training when they're doing during this lockdown, because it's a little bit more engaging. I find doing too much body weight stuff or too much of the same type of exercise to be really, really tedious.
Yeah.
SG brain strain for strength. How would you change training for an intermediate compared to a novice? Well, a pure novice has a different set of goals. A pure novice is moving through, a neuromuscular adaptation. They're getting used to the exercises on a very basic level, and they're trying to gain an understanding of exercise form. They're also trying to get past the point where they're not feeling super sore, like extremely sore every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So a pure novice, they have a very basic program and a very different set of goals. An intermediate is going to have more of a standard routine, more well fleshed out, et cetera. Robert, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think part of it's going to come down to overall total volume as well, how much volume or frequency you might be doing. Because I'm not sure how you feel about this, Steve, but I'm almost of the mindset that, the more advanced you get, the frequency is going to start to go down. So
right.
A novice will probably train a lift, maybe 3 times a week, probably because they're not as able to push themselves as hard, or they're not lifting as heavy as weight, so they can recover a little bit faster. At the same time, intermediates and advanced people are also going to need more volume to induce substantial amounts of fatigue in order to create that overload and start gaining muscle and strength. So there's a kind of a sliding scale where you're going to need to maybe increase the amount of volume you're doing in a given session for a certain muscle group as you become a more and more advanced lifter, which is going to induce more recovery time for that muscle. So you're going to start to get an overall more training volume, but the frequency with which you're hitting those muscles will probably go down.
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts on that, and you're spot on, Robert. I mean, a novice is generally going to be, I'm going to advocate a full body, and as you progress and get stronger, doing a full body just from a standpoint of getting in all the warm-up sets is a real pain in the butt.
Right.
It starts keeping you in the gym longer and longer. So it's good to transition to an upper lower AB type of split. But as you reach the late intermediate stages, we have to understand, and this is something that we often miss the mark with in lifting, because we rush to say everybody should do full body training because of the science. We miss the point that the body is a complex mechanism that is more than just muscle.
Yep.
We have a central nervous system, we have joints, we have tendons, we have the whole system, our immune system. And, you can't just beat the living shit out of your body with heavy weight and overwork these movement patterns. You have to kind of listen to your body. So, Robert, I agree completely. When you get towards the later stage, like I'm at, frequency training, not so much. You could probably do an upper lower, but it makes more sense for me to do my volume on a single training day.
Yeah.
All right, Robert, we got a supplement question from Logan. Thoughts on Morphogen's products?
Yeah, this is a line by Ben Hartman, who's a natural bodybuilder. Super, super stellar products. Again, it's going to be a premium price tag. The average price on his products is $48, but I believe that also includes shipping. Similar to core nutritionals, if there's a way for Ben to put in max dosage of every single ingredient that he wants to in a product, he's going to do it until the manufacturer basically says it's impossible to flavor, or you're going to be losing so much money on this product, we're not going to make it. But he's got an extensive line of products, from like general health stuff to natural muscle builders to joint support to cortisol reduction, pre-workouts, you name it. He's got an entire line. He's also got a protein bar coming out later this year. I've had him on the podcast. Super nice guy, super smart guy as well. I think he's got a master's in nutrition or dietetics, is one of those two. But he makes top quality products. I have no issues or any qualms with his brand. He makes really, really solid stuff. So yeah, go for it.
Robert, I want to stress this point because we can't stress it enough, and you just kind of touched on it. We talked about this before when it comes to formulation of supplements. You said this individual is trying to put as much as he can in there. Generally, when the average company is looking to formulate, they are very concerned with the bottom line. So there might be 10 ingredients you want to put into a pre-workout, but from a cost standpoint, that might be $18 per bottle. So then the decision has to make, you have to make a decision. How do we get that down to $9 or $8 a bottle? So it's not always the best product. Usually it is the best product they can make cheaply. So when you're looking at a line like Morphogen, which is trying to get the most in there, you're paying a little bit more, but you have to consider the reality. You're probably getting a lot more.
Yeah, and I would also extend that to say a lot of people will bitch about the prices of either the core products, NutraBios, Apollons, or Morphogens, and they will say that. I would wager that even a half scoop of their products is still going to give you more bang for your buck than buying the shitty little buy one get one free pre-workouts that you see advertised all the time.
All right, thanks, Robert. We got George. Sorry if you can hear that crazy noise. My air conditioner is kicking in. I got to stay cool or else I'm going to go to sleep. Creatine, does it do anything for strength or hypertrophy? I can never get a straight answer. You're about to get the straight answer now. Robert, lay the smacketh down.
Yes, it will improve your ability to gain muscle and strength. It doesn't do it directly. So it's not, if you start taking 5 grams of creatine a day, it's not going to magically add 50 pounds to your bench press, and it's not going to give you 18-inch arms, in the span of a month. What it does do is that it increases cellular hydration. So your muscles will store more water intramuscularly. So within the muscle cells, it'll make them look a little bit bigger, a little bit fuller. And it also improves ATP regeneration capacity in the body. So that will allow you to knock out, instead of getting 10 reps on a set, you might be able to get 11 or 12 reps. You extend these extra reps and this lack of fatigue, this increased performance, you extend this out over weeks, months, and years of training. Yes, that's how it helps you gain strength and muscle size. It's not an overnight thing. It's not a steroid or anything like that. It enhances cellular hydration and it enhances ATP regeneration and ATP stores within the body. So through that mechanism and through those avenues is how it will build muscle and strength.
And if you are a serious lifter, like you're serious about power building, muscle and strength building, it needs to be in your gym bag. It needs to be in your supplement cabinet, because there's no better researched product, and it is also cost effective. So I say this every single week, and I'll say it again. Many people, and you need to filter this on social media, many people will say, I'm a non-responder, didn't do anything for me. In my world, when people come to me, the biggest issue with anything is consistency. So you have to understand that 95% of these people that say creatine doesn't do anything or didn't do anything for me, ask them the question, did you take it every single day for 3 months? And I guarantee, and I can bet a testicle, that 95% of them did not. So,
yeah, and I would say along the lines of bloating, if that's usually a result of loading the creatine, so taking like 15 to 20 grams of it a day, just take 3 to 5 grams a day, and that should, offset any potential bloating. And the 2 to 3 pounds of water weight is normal. I mean, your body is going to store more water naturally as a result of taking creatine, but it's going to be stored in your muscle. It's not stored around your waistline or anything like that.
All right, thanks, Robert. My client Thaddeus is here, and he's got a better
got an avatar
gym name this week. But he does look like he does look like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in his avatar. Well done. You look like kind of like a superhero X-Men Dwayne Johnson. So keep up the great work. Awakening of Acuity. I'm on a budget, so I rely on diet. Can I afford some supplements? Is there a bare minimum of supplements that I should take? Robert, I imagine we would, obviously creatine is in the argument because it's inexpensive. General health supplements that, when you're on a budget, you should maybe take seriously.
Yeah, I would say, I guess what's he looking for? Is he looking for more for like performance enhancement, recovery stuff? But if we're going bare minimum, I'm going to assume it's general health, like you mentioned. A multivitamin just to shore up any potential gaps. They're dirt cheap. Why not? You can get an entire month's supply for like $5 or $8 at the store. Fish oil, if you're not consuming enough fatty fish each week, that's a good one to get. Vitamin D if you're not spending enough time out in the sun. If you're relying on your diet, I'm assuming most of your major mineral things are up to snuff, like your B vitamins and all that stuff, to where you don't need to worry about a B complex. But most of the time, those are also included in a multivitamin. Creatine, definitely, like you mentioned, Did we decide if we ever included caffeine as a must-have, Steve?
Anybody that doesn't view caffeine as a must-have supplement, I don't know. My daughter came to visit. My two daughters came to visit last week, and none of them were having any caffeine in the morning. I'm like, I did something wrong as a father.
Outside of stuff, some protein powder. If you know you're not getting in enough protein, that's affordable. There's 1,000 different varieties on the market. They're all mostly good quality. Flavoring across the board is pretty good. And you can definitely find a sale for a decent quality one there. From beyond that, you can start looking into some stuff like joint health or stress reduction. I find that's what most people deal with more than anything these days is stress. So you might want to check out some of that if you're having issues with those things.
All right. Thanks, Robert. And we got Brandon from Cincinnati. Brandon is about, I'm north of Cincinnati. It takes me about 23 minutes to hit the Kenwood Mall. Let's see. Awakening of Acuity is in Minnesota. No gyms open yet, but I have a home gym. Hopefully none of the gyms that are there will get vandalized and destroyed because of all the chaos going on right now. So.
Stay safe up there, man.
Yeah. I'm from Wisconsin. Robert, did you used to live in Minnesota?
So we originally from Louisiana. We stayed there till 2015, at which point Sandy got a job as the academic athlete counselor supervisor at the University of Michigan up in Ann Arbor. So we moved there from July 2015 to July 2016, then moved to Minnesota for a 3-month stint, left there in October of 2016 and came down to Texas. And we've been in Texas ever since October of 2016. So it was a very brief stint in Minnesota. I do not like the city of Minneapolis. The area where we were living in Linden Hills is kind of akin to the Garden District in New Orleans, where it's like these old timey houses and we kind of had everything we wanted to in there. But going into downtown Minneapolis sucks. The traffic there is horrible. The prices were much higher than what we're used to paying for just about anything. The grocery stores were shitty. So no, there's no love lost for Minneapolis with me. I'm glad to be not up there. And the people were assholes, the ones that we actually dealt with. So yeah.
Yeah. One of the,
I do love Wisconsin though. I do.
One good thing about Cincinnati is it's pretty easy to blast through on traffic. Getting into Cincinnati can be a pain in the butt, but generally on the weekends or when it's not rush hour, you can pretty much blast through and get out of there and get to Kentucky. Yeah. All right, just another data point. No gym access here in Michigan. Rocking the home gym. Sandbag carries have been a real lifesaver. Stay strong, man. Michigan, is one of those states with the governor. I'm not sure when they're going to open, but hopefully soon. Jim Bro, Red Delta is legit. I just don't do a lot of body weight stuff.
Yep.
All right, what do we got here? Greg Duvier, is there any benefit to taking extra EAAs to your protein powder?
Only if you are using a vegan protein powder, because vegan proteins by and large are less bioavailable and they contain less EAA quantities than a whey protein would. But outside of that, I mean, it's you're adding extra EAAs or BCAAs to a scoop of protein is like adding more gasoline to an already full gas tank. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to give you any extra benefit.
All right. Thanks, Robert. Jim Bro, I take 10 grams of creatine per day, and for a year and a half, it seems to improve my recovery. The science says that 5 grams is recommended. Is there anything dangerous by using 10K? No. If you're a bigger individual like me, you might want to take a little bit more. Robert, any downsides? There's a lot of myths and rumors that just continue to circulate. Like it's going to make you bald. It's going to make your nuts fall off. It's going to crush your libido. Who knows? Make up your myth of the day. Robert, any thoughts on dangers?
No, at that dosage, I mean, they've done up to 20 grams a day when you're doing the creatine loading for a week or two at a time. 5 to 10 grams is well within the range. And like you said, for bigger individuals, 5 grams is kind of that base number that applies to a broad range of people, but you've got outliers. Some people could probably get more, like a 98-pound female can probably get by with, 2.5 to 3 grams a day of creatine, whereas a 250 or a 300-pound guy is going to need, 7, 8, 9, 10 grams of creatine a day. So there's nothing there. It's a safe compound when used within reason and dosed appropriately. So yeah, you're fine.
All right. I want to mention right up here, I'm trying to figure out my camera. If you guys want a phone consultation, the link is down below. those of you guys that can't afford coaching and want a just to do some one-on-one phone consult, usually they go 60 to 90 minutes, and you get to talk to this guy right here. So check out the link down below. Robert, do you do a phone consultation service?
Yes, I do. I've got a in addition to the email blast that is on your site, that I also offer a phone consult on my site. So it's either we'll set up a first 40-minute phone call, and then after that it is 10 email exchanges to refine and optimize your supplement stacker if you want to talk training and nutrition, because that also always plays into nutrition stuff as well. So all of that stuff's on the talk. Or if you just want to see my pretty face for 40 minutes, you can do that too.
Yep, absolutely. I don't do video chat because I'm too busy writing and taking notes. And Reed, how much variance have you seen in people's MRV? I seem to overreach very easily from normal amounts of leg work and can only make progress when doing very little amount to maximize recovery. Variance, it's an interesting question, because the older I get, the more I realize that pain tolerance, some people perceive pain and soreness much more as a nuance than other people. So I am still processing how much of this is mental and how much of this is physical. There are outliers like me who can go out and run 50K in a day and feel like I got dumped out of a car and then get up the next day and do a marathon, because I don't know if it's mental or you're learning to just suck it up or what. But Robert, any thoughts on mental and physical tolerance? Do you believe obviously physiologically, some people are less able to handle the same amount of work. But Robert, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's going to be, there could be a significant amount of variability from one person's ability to recover compared to another. And I guess we'll caveat this by saying MRV for the people that may not understand the acronym. It's maximum recoverable volume, which is kind of a topic explored by Dr. Mike Israetel and the Renaissance periodization crew over there. But yeah, it's even within my own training, I've found different degrees of recoverability. So two different ways of training legs. If I do like a high volume bodyweight plyo day, I find I recover from that much easier than like the heavy Bulgarian split squat day, double front rack squats and walking lunges and sliding leg curls. And also my quads recover infinitely faster than my hamstrings do. And I'll push, you could ask Sandy the way I train. I don't take it easy. I like to push myself till I'm basically ground into the dirt when I'm training. But that's the way I was brought up with Taekwondo, is that you didn't take it easy ever. You go until you are on the verge of puking. And so that's kind of, I've always carried that mindset with me into just about anything that I do. So yeah, I think there's definitely a mental component to it, where how hard can you push yourself? Do you think you can? And then it's because the mind will always be able to push harder. And I think most people are capable of doing it. It's just a matter of, do they have the testicular or intestinal fortitude to push themselves and get past that temporary pain threshold to reach that ethereal plane of pain.
Well, I want to add, and that's an important point, that the mind is a liar, right? The mind is set up to protect the body.
Yeah.
So we need to understand this. The mind is going to tell you to sit. The mind is going to tell you to relax. The mind is going to tell you to stay in a place of comfort when there's not an urgent need for food or water or etc. That's a defense mechanism. The mind is going to tell you after 5 miles to sit your dumb ass down and stop moving. The mind is going to tell you after an hour of hard training to sit your ass down and stop moving. So we have to understand that how we feel generally is, like, a lot of times it's mental and it can be a lie. So sometimes there is a good reason to continue to push back against the mind. One thing I want to add is something I talk about on this channel a lot, is evolving your training based on needs. What are needs? Well, people want me to quantify that. You can't really quantify that because it's highly individual. So it's something you learn as you train. Something I learned as I trained is that I hate 8 to 10 rep barbell rows. I'd rather pull off my testicle and deep fry it than do 8 to 10 rep barbell rows. So I do 5 rep rows, right? Romanian deadlifts. If I have to do 3 sets, I would rather punch a nun. I mean, it's honest. I do 2 sets because I just can't. I just don't like them. So evolving your training based on me. There you go, Robert. Deep frying testicles.
Deep frying testicles. There you go.
Right.
That made my morning, Steve.
It's just humor, folks. I would never punch a nun. It's just humor. All right. KH Labs. KH Performance Lab. Kaj is one of the smartest people in the industry, and we really need to get him on here with us some Friday. All 3 of us going.
That would be awesome.
That'd
Menage a trois of epic proportions.
Anybody that doesn't subscribe to him needs to check him out on Instagram and on YouTube. Let's ask some hard-hitting questions. How many bicep curls do I have to do to improve my squat? Robert?
4,836.
I will say that I just watched the movie 23 again with Jim Carrey, and I do know the answer somewhere lies in some form of derivative that boils down to 23. All right, thank you. Robert, you ever seen that movie?
I saw it. It's like the horror-ish kind of movie one that he did.
Yeah, where he's like the Earth's axis is 23 and 2 divided by 3 is 666, and every number he sees he derives down to 23.
Yeah, I saw that when it first came out, or the first year or so after it came out, but I haven't seen it then. That was kind of when he went on this like weird movie spell. I don't know. He did comedy for a while and rocked that out, and then he started getting all these weird movies, and that's when I kind of lost interest in.
Yeah, he was in 23 and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and stuff.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got now? KO Surge, I don't believe in deload. Then I love you, and you'll get a Christmas card from me. Just another data point. Any supplements to help with tendinitis? I'm going to start off by saying I get so many tendinitis questions. And what I find is that when people introduce things like VersaGrips or straps and relieve a little bit of pressure on the constant gripping on back work, that in almost every case, their tendinitis improves. So I would seriously consider that. That's just based on my personal experience. As far as supplementation, Robert, any thoughts on that?
As far as supplements, I mean, look into some kind of natural anti-inflammatory supplements, something like Cissus quadrangularis. InnovaPharm makes a really good Cissus product, as does SNS. Their Cissus XT is really good. You could also look into some curcumin supplements or turmeric. Both of those are pretty powerful anti-inflammatories. Don't take them within, I would say, 2 to 3 hours on either end of the training window. You could also look into berberine too. Now, berberine's got a bunch of other properties in it, as well as like an AMPK activator. It's got some nutrient partitioning abilities to it. It's a powerful antioxidant. It's got some anti-inflammatory benefits. But take these away from your training window, because consuming too many anti-inflammatory agents or antioxidants can blunt some of the beneficial adaptations to training. Not to a meaningful degree, but why kneecap yourself when you really don't need to. And then I would also say just check your training form and your training volume. Make sure you're taking recovery in and of itself seriously, because tendinitis, there's not really a supplement that's going to fix it. That's more exercise execution and total volume load.
Yeah, and invariably when I mention straps, someone's going to come up and say, "I don't want, what about my grip training?" Like you're training your back to train your back, not your grip. If your grip sucks, train your grip after back. But for the love of God, protect yourself if you can against elbow tendonitis, because it's a real pain in the ass. Yeah. ZMA. Thoughts on ZMA?
This is Serge's 3rd week in a row asking a ZMA question.
No, it's not. It
definitely is.
You just need to put together a common question, link to common questions down below.
We do. That's what maybe that's a little thing we can do for the site. We'll put together a little FAQ section on the Super Living site. ZMA.
Hold on a minute, Robert. I'm just going to say, and we want all your questions, but after you've done this for like 12 years, like me, you get the same questions every single day. And I keep waking up saying, I'm just going to put together a Q&A link where I can reference people to this.
Yeah.
And I never do because I'm a dumbass. So, Robert, go ahead.
ZMA, it can be useful for helping people sleep. There's a couple of studies done, I believe it's on college athletes, that show that they help them get to sleep. Basically, it's addressing two common mineral deficiencies, zinc and magnesium, which are pretty rampant, and especially in highly active individuals. Magnesium is the second or third most common nutrient deficiency on the planet. It's that much more exacerbated in highly active people due to magnesium's role. And it's involved in over 300 processes in the body. So your body uses a lot of it, or it's widely used across the body. Sure, take it. I like it in complex with some other sleep aids, maybe some melatonin, some valerian root, and some L-theanine or ashwagandha, some KSM-66. I wouldn't use just ZMA by itself. I don't think it's that great of a sleep aid on its own.
All right, thanks, Robert. Again, guys, keep your questions coming. Diet, nutrition, training, supplementation, off topic, thoughts on anything. We don't care as long as it doesn't have to do with thoughts on COVID-19 or the riots or performance-enhancing drugs.
Yeah.
Seth says, LOL at Kaj. Rahul, opinion on mass gainers. Robert, any thoughts on mass gainers?
The market space is slowly trending towards getting better quality mass gainers, but by and large, the vast majority of them are still dog shit quality. They're using maltodextrin and super, super cheap forms of whey protein, like less than WPC 70, which means it's going to be less than 70% protein by mass. So what the end result of this is, it's a bunch of cheap carbohydrates and shitty whey protein that's going to leave you feeling like you're ready to shit your pants within 10 to 15 minutes of consuming these things. You can make your own mass gainer for pennies on the dollar. Take 1 to 2 scoops of whey protein, a cup of dried rolled oats, 1 to 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, a cup of whole milk.
Robert.
Yeah.
Heavy cream. Don't forget heavy cream.
Heavy cream, yeah. Heavy cream instead of milk. You can use heavy cream.
Add a lot of flavor in there. Sorry, I don't mean to derail it.
You ruined my whole spiel, Steve. I got to start all over now.
Peanut butter, bananas, heavy cream, oats, or whole
there you go.
milk.
Yeah. We'll do that. That'll be in the FAQ section. The homemade weight gainer. Don't waste money on weight gainers. They're overpriced, shitty quality ingredients. Just get a halfway decent blender at your house, or even one of those like little NutriBullets or Ninja blenders. You've got everything you need there. A cup of dried oats, 1 to 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, 1 to 2 scoops of protein powder, 1 to 2 cups of milk, 1 whole banana, frozen, preferably cut into chunks to make it taste like a milkshake. Add some ice, blend, and you're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And regarding heavy cream, if you ever have a protein powder that tastes like ass, add an ounce of heavy cream to it. It'll taste more milky, more like whole milk. If you are somebody that has a hard time getting in your calories but doesn't want to take a big mass gainer into the blender thing, just keep heavy cream in the house and add an ounce to a protein shake or even to a glass of milk. Regarding people that need extra calories, look, you need to add cheese on everything, because if you don't, you're a deviant. Every meal, you can add a little bit of butter, a little bit of cheese, a little bit of sour cream. There's ways to add really tasty stuff onto your meals.
What are some of your favorite cheeses, Steve?
Oh, man, I'm a cheese fanatic. I like Asiago a lot, just as something to sprinkle on top of. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes at night I'm hungry, and I'll just chop up tomatoes and I'll put a little bit of Asiago on. I like Gouda. I like Asiago just as some basic cheeses. Those are kind of my staples. I like Swiss a lot because, you can get a little bit lower calorie versions. How about you, Robert?
Blue cheese is definitely up there. A really nice aged cheddar cheese is great. Gouda in any form, regular or smoked Gouda, is fantastic. I like a lot. Those are probably some of my favorites. Yeah.
I really like going to at Kroger. We have this really nice cheese section. It's like cheese porn to me. I like to try different types of cheeses. So
yeah, Sandy and I'll do a wine and cheese day About once a month, we'll get a nice bottle of red wine that we find and get 3 or 4 different cheeses and just, go ham on the wine and cheese board.
I've never found a cheese I don't like. We have literally where our business is, 2 businesses down is in Lebanon, Ohio, is a company that makes their own cheese. So we're literally like 2 feet away from fresh cheese. All right. Thank you. You're welcome. Tylen, do you recommend auto-regulated progression for an early intermediate lifter? Having a rep goal and doing every set until failure. Look, the rep goal system, the reason why I introduced the rep goal system is to take somebody and get them up to speed quickly. It is not magic. Any progression approach will serve you well, but there's a lot of things I like about maximizing sets in general. But as you get strong, and we talked about this earlier, pushing every set hard is going to be more difficult physically. So for intermediates and most of my trainees, most of my clients, what I have them do is just push the last set hard. Now, let me explain. A lot of them I'll give 3 sets of 8 or 4 sets of 8 on a big compound movement. Let's say you're doing 225 on squat. You do 225 by 8, 225 by 8, and the last set you do as many safe reps as possible. And that is kind of the indicator of when you should add weight. If you can only do 8, you stay the same. If you can only do 9, you stay the same. If you can get up to 10 reps, then I have them bump it up 5 pounds. So as an intermediate, I like the deeper into training you get, the less I like a reliance on maximizing every set. Any thoughts on that, Robert?
No, I mean, you nailed the head. You nailed the head on that, so nothing else to add.
All right, Harut. Whoops, let me get this up here. Any tips or exercises to strengthen the psoas? Is that how you pronounce it, Robert?
Psoas, yeah, that's a bitch little muscle that I've had some issues with over the years.
I've strained mine 3 times in the last 5 years. That's out of my lane. Any thoughts, Robert?
It's just be careful with your exercise routines. I mean, I've had to deal with it a lot. I went to physical therapy just for a whole bunch of hip issues that I've kind of mentioned on here before. Just I've got a torn labrum in a hip, and I've had other glute med issues and all that other shit. It's basically just be careful of overall training volume. Be very, very mindful of your exercise execution, and don't put the cart before the horse when it comes to adding more weight or trying to chase another rep. Make sure you own every aspect of the movement, and you can do it pain-free, and then worry about, adding on another rep, adding on another set, adding on 5 more pounds to the lift.
As my junior high school math teacher used to say, don't put Rene Descartes before the horse. All right.
Okay.
That's math puns. Thank you.
Yes, it is.
Tylen, how many weeks does it take for creatine to fully store in the body?
Depends on how much you're taking a day. So if you do the loading protocols, which I'm really don't ever advocate for people doing it, which is 20 grams a day every day for 7 days, you'll reach saturation in a week. But since we're all considering health, fitness, lifting as a lifetime pursuit, 5 grams a day every day will have you reaching saturation in 21 to 28 days, depending on your body weight.
All right, Robert, thanks. Coffee must flow, indeed. Well,
yes.
As it gets warmer, I tend to rely more and more on this right here.
Artificial sweeteners, Steve. You're going to hell, man.
I know. Well, I only have one a day, so I'm telling you about it.
I was going to ask you, what is your typical? Are you ever mindful of your caffeine intake during the day? Do you know how much you take in on an average day?
I still have some OCD issues from the 80s. And I mentioned this before. Back in the 80s, late 80s, the Weider magazines, you'd see these studies where caffeine gets its energy from destroying muscle tissue. And back then, caffeine was almost like don't take it if you're a lifter, right?
Holy shit!
But I've gone through periods where I try to get off caffeine, reliance on caffeine, and then life smacks you in the balls and you realize you're a fool. I generally nowadays don't do more than 1 a day. Like today is my happy day, so I did a green and a purple.
There you go.
And I also had, hold on, inside information. I also had my Friday
Ooh.
I have one of those every Friday. So I splurge a little bit on Friday. I go crazy. But generally 1 cup of coffee, 1 Monster. Sometimes if I just want to come down here and get to work, I just take a caffeine tablet and get on it.
Gotcha.
Tylen, how to figure out how much caffeine coffee has? I got a lot of questions. Don't worry, we'll handle all your questions.
Keep them coming, man. We love doing this stuff. Caffeine content coffee varies widely on the type of bean, how it's grown, the brewing method used, how long it's left to brew. It's very wildly used. Plus, there's also places that spray extra caffeine on the thing, like Starbucks dark roast. Most of the time, the darker roast of coffee is, the less caffeine content it actually has. So what that means is, you've got your run-of-the-mill blonde roast or light roast is going to have more caffeine content per 8 ounces of coffee than a dark roast or an espresso roast will. So the more you roast it, the less caffeine it's got. Interestingly, though, Starbucks' dark roast has more caffeine than all the other ones. But that I read an article several years ago that Starbucks and a few other coffee outlets actually spray extra caffeine onto the beans to make it that much more highly caffeinated and get people, that much more energized from it. So it really depends. You can ask people, but it's, the typical 6 to 8 ounce cup of coffee has somewhere in the ballpark of 80 to 120 milligrams of caffeine.
Yeah, I was curious about that, whether they were genetically modifying it or not. Jeremy, Wisconsin is greater than Minnesota.
Agreed.
That's why it's called the Lombardi Trophy Kids. All right. Next topic. Next question. Thoughts on alpha GPC for strength increase?
They had a couple of pilot studies in very, very small groups showing a moderate increase, I believe, in vertical jump height and overall strength output. I'm not a big believer in it. I don't think it's going to give you massive differences. Would I put it up there with something like creatine or betaine for strength improvement? No. It might give you some additional benefit. If anything, I find alpha GPC more as a cognitive enhancer than a purely performance ingredient. I know there are other studies out there showing modest performance improvements on it, but I'd like to see more evidence for it first. It's not going to hurt anything being in your pre-workout. I like it from the mental focus aspect. I just don't rely on it as a purely muscle building or strength ingredient.
Off topic, I just want to interject and we'll get back to the questions here in a minute. An ad came up on my Facebook, and we'll just kind of use this as a little intermission story. An ad came up on my Facebook from a company called Peak, which was doing testosterone replacement therapy, and starting at $45. So I look at the image and I see a bottle of capsules. So immediately that's a red flag for TRT, right?
Yeah.
So I click through, and their first tier is like a couple of vitamins and minerals for $40 a month. Their second tier adds a couple of minor testosterone boosting ingredients for $75 a month. And then if you pay the big schmackaroli, which is $160 a month, you get a vial of test for your TRT. And so I make a comment on there, and like you guys are just jamming people $70 a month for a couple ingredients, and
yeah,
they wanted to debate me. And for a second, I almost tagged you. I almost tagged Alan Roberts. I almost tagged Kaj. I almost tagged the whole army to come in and
take them to task real quick.
Yeah, but I decided to give him a break. All right. Anyway, that's my story for the day. Brandon, Robert, question for you. Any tips on studying to know the subject to the level of your expertise?
Ooh, this is somewhat difficult. I'm blessed in many ways to have really, really good parents who instilled in us very good study habits. My mom and dad are both really sharp people, and so I've come from a line of engineers. My grandpa was an engineer. My dad was. I am. My younger brother is. My mom's a nurse. My sister is a pharmacist in a hospital in New Orleans. So we were taught at a very young age to love learning, to love to read, love math. Math and science have always come very easy to me, and learning is something I'm very passionate about. So give me anything. It could be history, it could be science. I mean, obviously there's subjects I'm more passionate about or more interested in than others, but it is just the way I got into supplements and all my fitness and nutrition knowledge is every day I read something. I just invest myself into it. block out any distractions. And when you're passionate about something and you have a genuine interest in it, you don't really need to take a nootropic. You don't need to load up on caffeine. You are just internally, intrinsically motivated to learn anything and everything to master a subject. And do I believe I've mastered everything there is to learn? Not even close. There is so much more that I have yet to learn, and I still want to learn. I think once you stop learning is when you start dying. So, just throw yourself into it. If it's something that you're truly passionate about, just, refresh yourself every day. Take notes on something. I had really good teachers in school that gave us really good ways of how to take notes and then go back and review those notes, even if it's only, 45 minutes or not even that, 10 to 15 minutes a day of reviewing something, but make notes in the margins when you're doing something. Another thing I do, I hate reading any kind of educational material on a tablet, PC, laptop, anything. We have a lot of books here at the house, and my parents have even more of my books at their house in Louisiana. I like to have a hard copy of something. I feel like I learn better from it, and then actually taking notes by hand on a separate piece of paper, not just scribbling in the margins of the book. Get a separate notebook or a note binder, or like a trapper keeper from like we had in the 90s when I was going to elementary school. Anything you can do to take down notes, use highlighters, use different colored pencils if you need to. Put on some good instrumental only music and just block out the rest of the fucking world and just zone in on what you can do.
Yeah, I want to make a couple points here, or maybe a point. I don't know. Somebody can keep score at home and tell me how many points I make. But anybody that gets on, like you've seen recently in all the COVID nonsense, and this isn't a COVID point, but people proclaiming they're experts. Anybody that proclaims they're an expert will know something, will know this truth, and I want you to remember this. And that is, Robert is what I would consider an expert in supplements. I'm very passionate. I hesitate to call myself an expert on lifting. But one thing I know is there's so much information that I will wake up and be mindful of the things I forgot. Like there's so many things you talk about on a daily basis. And then somebody will ask you a question of something you wrote an article about that you were very passionate about 2 years ago. And you're like, I haven't really talked about that in a while. Yeah. And I forgot a little bit of what I used to know, and you have to refresh. So
right.
Part of trying to be an expert or bring up your level of expertise in a subject is knowing that there's a lot of peripheral stuff that'll kind of dissipate. Like you drop a stone in the water and you get the ripples that are strong. And over time, you can lose focus on certain topics because nobody might be asking you questions, or you might be focused on something else. So, Grandpa Fat Boy, hello from Belgium. Hope all is well in Belgium.
Bonus points for the funny name.
Yeah. Jim Bro, the number 23 is a terribly underrated movie. I didn't mind it. I mean, these days, with every company in the world putting out movies, so many of them are hard to get through. I mean, so many loopholes and logical errors and silly things. I don't know. George Looker, any downside to using close grip as my main bench press? I plateaued on dumbbells at 150 per side. George, I'm going to tell you something. If you have plateaued on dumbbells at 150 per side, you can do whatever the heck you want. Right now, there's no downside. You just need to take care of your body. Yeah. I've got up to 150s by 10s on dumbbell bench. That's about all most gyms have. If you want chest size, you're going to have to be mindful. If you want increased chest size, you're going to have to be mindful of putting together a good backing to the close grip bench that focuses on your chest. Robert, any thoughts?
That's impressive. If he's repping out 150s per side, I mean, there's nothing I can say that's going to help him more. He surpassed my pressing ability. Maybe work on some adduction work, some cable crossovers, just so you can get some more kind of chest volume in there without having to go super heavy.
Yep. All right. Kaj, I appreciate the answer. I'll start doing curls now. Kaj, just remember the number 23.
And make sure to do them on a Bosu ball too, Cash.
Big balls. We all like big balls. Jim Bro, Eternal Sunshine of Spotless Mind was so awful I couldn't even finish it.
Same here.
thank you for your review. Just giving him shit. Sebastian, I started doing 2 sets every other day, 7 sets average per muscle per week, and was able to add weight a few days after. Added 5 kilograms in my squat, incline, and barbell curl. Any thoughts since it's low volume? You can progress on any volume. So that's your progression isn't necessarily a factor on your volume. You should be progressing regularly on any reasonable amount of volume. I will say, just because something works doesn't mean it's optimal. And we need to make that distinction with everything we do. Just because something works doesn't mean it's optimal. If me and Robert start in Maine and you give him a Lamborghini Countach and you give me a tricycle, we're both going to get to California eventually. Just because it works, just because I'm pedaling on my tricycle, doesn't mean it's optimal. Any thoughts, Robert?
Nope, that's well said.
All right, Robert, I'm going to let you start this one. DC or Marvel?
This isn't even close. I mean, is this really even really a competition? No.
All right, go ahead.
It's Marvel, hands down. Marvel. Stan Lee is the man.
Look, I love Superman and I love Batman.
Yeah, the rest of DC can fuck off.
Like, Superman's problem was like Superman was never intended to, they never thought out Superman's going to last, 80, 90 years, right?
Right.
You can't take a superhero and make him a god, because then you have the challenge of making the villains bigger than God. So you consistently have that challenge. And that's kind of one of the issues with the Avengers movies. You have to get a monster, an enemy or villain so big and badass that it can just like eat planets and,
Exactly. I'm wondering where they're going to go, who the next ginormous villain is going to be after Thanos.
But Marvel has I love Marvel's variety. Doctor Strange, you have guys like Iron Fist and Daredevil, and Spider-Man. I mean, they're taking on. It's more of a story. They're taking on more. They're more human.
Yep. More relatable, definitely.
Yeah, they're taking on villains that aren't. Whatever. Come on, It's Marvel. Anybody that says DC, I want to hear your reasons, so drop a comment. Creatine HCl, Robert?
It's one of those designer creatines that tried to tout its superiority to creatine monohydrate based on the premise that it has enhanced water solubility and is a little bit more stable in solution than creatine monohydrate is. The issue with that is just because something is more soluble in water doesn't necessarily mean it is more bioavailable in the human body. You would think it is because we're mostly made of water, and so if something's more soluble, then obviously it's going to just uptake into the human body that much more effectively and yield that much more benefit. That's not the case with creatine. Creatine monohydrate is cheaper than creatine hydrochloride. It's got more studies backing it than creatine hydrochloride is. They yield the same benefits, and creatine monohydrate is still very, very, very readily absorbed by the human body. There's no need to go pay the extra cost for creatine hydrochloride, and it tastes like shit too. I mean, monohydrate isn't a jelly donut or anything, but hydrochloride, the hydrochloric acid molecule that's on there, is really, really nasty tasting.
All right. Thanks, Robert. Guys, just continue to post up your questions. We will stay on as long as you have questions. Diet, training, supplementation, off topic, doesn't matter. As soon as we run out of questions, we will jump ship. If we miss your question, head over to Instagram at Ben the Barman or at the Supplement Engineer. Slide into our DM, and we'd be happy to respond. Nice Rene Descartes reference. Thank you. Rigo, how much you bench bra? Robert, how much you bench bra?
I have no idea. I couldn't tell you the last time I tested a 1 rep max on bench. I much prefer for chest movements. I've always gotten a much better mind muscle connection just training stimulus using either dumbbells or dips and all manner of push-ups. Those I've always responded much better to that. I find when I do, and maybe it's either the way I'm built or I'm not performing the movement as proficiently as I could be, but it bugs my bicep tendon and my shoulder more than anything whenever I do super heavy bench presses.
I got up to 49, 405 by 2 raw. But I was, at that time I was aiming to compete and set the all-time over 50 world record. But obviously I tore my hamstring at the time. That was the most I've ever had as a skinny guy. When I was approaching, when I was 346 pounds, and I got videos on this channel, I got 500-pound lockouts with chains. So I estimate my bench was probably around 430, 435, 440 without the chains. But I will never know because I'm neither young nor fat. So that's how much I bench bra. Whoops, I missed something here? Zach, replacing dips, 15 rep goal per set with a pressing movement in my routine. Should I keep the same rep goal or lower? Every exercise has I like to adjust the reps to be exercise specific. For example, when I do dumbbell work, I prefer to do a little bit higher volume, meaning 10, maybe even 15 reps per set. That's just personal preference. Mm-hmm. If you're doing bench and you're doing lower reps and you add in something as a complement to that, like dumbbell bench or whatever, I would do slightly higher reps. Any thoughts, Robert?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you touched on that a little earlier with the barbell rows. You said you don't like going over 5 reps with the barbell rows. So there definitely is kind of an optimal rep range given what exercise is. I mean, do you really want to do sets of 3 for a bicep curl? No. I mean, you're probably, tear your arms off doing that shit or give yourself a really bad case of tendinitis. With dips, I would say, and maybe instead of replacing the pressing movement altogether, I mean, if it's providing a good training stimulus to your body, to your pecs and the rest of your pushing muscles, and you're getting a good training effect from it, why not either put on a weight vest or maybe slap some weight around your waist and put it, with a dip belt or a chain or something like that and keep the movement in there instead of switching to a different one.
Yeah, one of the things I advise for my clients is when I set up inverted rows, pull-ups, chin-ups, dips, I'll have them do 3 sets of 12. And when that becomes manageable, then I'll tell them to slap on a dip belt or a backpack and add 5 pounds. You want to progress slowly so you can keep a focus on good control and good form on your body weight movements, because dips and pull-ups can really be done sloppy, and not a lot of people are calling out the sloppy nature of these movements.
And you can also mess around with your body angle to make dips a little bit more. So if the more upright your torso is, the more tricep focus. But if you want to start increasing the difficulty without necessarily having to add some kind of external loading, just start shifting your torso forward a little bit more until you're parallel to the ground and you're going straight up and down to where it's almost like an airborne push-up kind of thing. So I mean that's another way you can kind of manipulate things without having to necessarily add load or change the movement entirely.
All right, Robert, thanks. We got Jeremy O. Heard conflicting opinions of vitamin C and E around a workout. One friend said it helped control free radical damage. Another said it may actually hinder muscle growth. Who's right?
Well, this kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier about limiting powerful antioxidants in and around the training window. Jeremy, both of your friends are right to a certain degree. So exercise in and of itself does generate free radicals, and vitamin C and E do help limit the spread of free radicals in the body. There also is some research. Hi, Fiona. There also is some research showing that I believe it's in female athletes that vitamin C and E supplementation can blunt some of those beneficial training adaptations induced by resistance training that I discussed earlier. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, you have to really be mega dosing these things, like 1,000 milligrams of each around your workout. I don't think it's a good idea to take them around there. Low doses of vitamin C when paired with nitrates help prevent nitrate tolerance and actually improve the bioavailability of nitric oxide in the body. So in that way, it might be improving blood flow and overall ATP production and performance. Overall, though, just keep them away from your training window. The free radicals generated from resistance training are necessary and beneficial to bringing about those sought after training adaptations that you're looking for, be it strength, power, performance improvement.
Thanks, Robert. We're going to move on to Zach. Opinions on EAA or simple carbs intra-workout for better recovery.
Depends on kind of how long your workout is, what kind of style of training you're doing, what is your pre and your post nutrition look like. And I hate giving that answer, but that is really the nuanced thing. It'd be really easy for me to say, oh, well, it's going to automatically improve your recovery. I mean, calories are the main driver for recovery and growth. So if simple carbs help you and you don't typically either consume enough carbohydrate, you're not, or you just have trouble meeting calorie needs during the day, you just suffer from low appetite or something, or, training hard doesn't make you very hungry. Then yeah, having that intra workout shake of the carbs and EAs might just improve recovery in that it's just giving you more calories and it's helping you hit your calorie needs that much quicker. You can make an argument that consuming carbs either during or after the workout can replenish glycogen stores a little bit quicker. But unless you are a highly competitive athlete engaged in multiple bouts of training or competition in a day, look at glycogen resynthesis as more of a global process, so a 24-hour process instead of like an hour-by-hour process. So at the end of the day, look at overall calories, and if you find that you're not meeting your overall calories and you can't have a pre-workout meal, then start feeding in some of those intra-workout carbs.
Thanks, Robert. Trapper keepers only help if they have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on them. I love that you referenced Trapper Keeper because that was a part of my childhood, the 80s, and you had the Trapper Keeper commercials on in between the Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh, yeah.
If anybody doesn't know what they are, you can safely search it on Google without getting porn.
And the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles we're referencing here is the original iteration, like the 90s Saturday morning cartoon and the original 90s movies. The new shit they have nowadays with Megan Fox and that bullshit is god awful. The new Ninja Turtles, I wasted an hour and a half of my life watching it. It was fucking horrible.
And that is all you need to know. Jimbro, I agree 100% on Marvel, but The Watchmen was amazing. Yeah, DC puts out some good stuff. I mean, no one's going to argue with that, but pound for pound, it's like they just can't hold their own.
Yeah, is it really DC or is it Frank Miller? Because didn't Frank Miller, he was the one that did the Dark Knight series and he did Watchmen too, didn't he? So is it really DC or is it just this one guy that worked for DC at that one time?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good point. I don't Watchmen. I've never really gotten into. I mean, I've seen the movie, but
yeah, it was the extent of what I saw was the movie.
Yeah, I'm not super excited to see more. The only real movie we have such a saturation of superhero movies. Yeah. Recently, and Robert, I'm curious what you think, but the only movie for me that is, I enjoy them, but one movie that really stirred my interest to see more in that series was Doctor Strange.
Oh yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, Robert, any movies you've seen, superhero movies that kind of caught you off guard and left you wanting more?
I mean, I liked the original 2 Spider-Man movies that Tobey Maguire did. The third one, it was cool to see Venom finally on the big screen, but the way they did it and everything, that whole movie just, I don't know, shouldn't have been made. I don't really like the new direction they've taken the Spider-Man. I think the actor, Tom Holland, is great, and he's doing, he's bringing in all the quips and the sarcasm and the little jokes that Spider-Man did in the comic books, which I think was kind of cool and was kind of lacking from the Tobey Maguire trilogy. But the way they've written the Mary Jane character and Flash Thompson, it is so not the way that the Spider-Man comic characters, it's not true to the way that the original comic books were written, that I don't really want to see any more of the new ones because of the second Spider-Man, the Far From Home, turned me off that much.
Well, I got to say, Robert, this is a conversation I've had with my wife. We recently watched the latest Fantastic Four movie, which I've been avoiding forever.
Didn't see that one.
But look, they changed too many things,
Yeah.
and like there's no reason to change. Now hear me out before anybody pounds on me. There's no need to diversify an existing milieu, like an existing universe, because Marvel was always the comic book company that had diversity. The Black Panther,
X-Men. I mean, that was, it was a bunch of outcasts, and they were all, it was about acceptance of all the outcasts and the weirdos.
Power Man, a blind guy, women superheroes, and obviously we live in a culture that's ever evolving, but there's no need to change up everything to add in a Japanese friend for Spider-Man, or to change the attitude of Mary Jane or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't like that. So.
No, I mean, Mary Jane is just this aloof person that walks around with this constant look of life is so hard, and that she was never that way in the comic book. She just the essence of her character was, and they've made the adult teachers in the Spider-Man comics just bumbling idiots. Now, I mean, the second movie, Sandy and I almost got up and walked out of it. We were that turned off by just the entire way everything was done. The kid playing Spider-Man is doing a great job. It's the rest of the universe that they're creating around him that's dog shit.
Yeah, I mean, either you're doing the story or you're doing an interpretation of the story.
Right.
And really, if you're doing an interpretation of the story, it's more an analysis than it is the actual story. So that's my opinion. I could talk about superheroes all day. Jim Bro, okay, I won't keep posting silly questions. Keep posting silly questions. Which is the better series? All right, we got a good one here. Star Wars or Marvel? I'm going to lead this one. And I'm going to piss off a few people, but beyond the first couple of Star Wars movies, they bore the living shitbags out of me. Robert?
I am a Star Wars kid. I'm a Marvel kid. I love both. I really like the original Star Wars trilogy. You what?
I didn't mean to offend you. Then.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. You're good. I really like 4, 5, and 6 of Star Wars. So I really like those movies a lot. I even read the entire Star Wars expanded universe, the original novels that were written after Return of the Jedi was done, before they started making episodes 1, 2, and 3, before Disney came over and said, we don't like this entire expanded universe that you've built over the course of like decades and 40 or 50 novels. Sandy and I have read both of those. It's a fantastic series. That storyline that they did post Return of the Jedi in that original series of books beats the ever-living piss out of the nonsense that they did with 7, 8, 9, which I'm not even going to acknowledge those 3 movies with all their bullshit. Anyway, so that tells you how I feel about post Star Wars. 1, 2, and 3, there were elements that were really good of Star Wars 1, 2, and 3, especially the lightsaber duels were really cool. My brother and I actually choreographed a couple of them. So we did Taekwondo demonstrations every summer for the kid camps we taught. And we choreographed the Darth Maul and Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber battle from episode 1, Phantom Menace. But I did that with actual swords and a staff in one of our things. So, we almost cut each other a couple of times, but it was, it was fine. I think overall in the execution, if we're looking at the entire body of work, I would have to give the slight edge to Marvel, but I think I'm going to limit that at the end of Infinity War and Endgame. Anything made after that, it's going to start detracting from the quality of the series, because I didn't like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I thought that was really bad. I didn't like Spider-Man Far From Home. Black Panther was really good. I like that. I like their first Doctor Strange movie. I think the difficulty with Marvel is that there are so many other people. You've got so many different directors, so many different actors, where Star Wars 1 through 6 had a unified vision of just George Lucas. There were different directors, but there was one hand on the wheel for what the storyline was. With the Marvel universe, it's been people dropping in and out along the way.
Yeah, Robert, I was actually thinking about that point and was going to make that point about a few minutes ago when I was thinking about it. Star Wars is more cohesive for me. Marvel, we just stepped back and we watched like the first Hulk, and I enjoyed the first Hulk. I enjoyed the Daredevil movie. It is what it is. I mean, it's with flaws, but comic book movies, they keep changing interpretations. They keep changing actors.
Yeah.
Cohesion just isn't there.
Right. And so if you're going to classify Marvel, I mean, are we going to go all the way back to like the first Blade movie done at the end of the 90s and then count the Tobey Maguires and then whoever the fuck that Spider-Man guy was in the middle that made the 2 Amazing Spider-Man? I never even saw either of those. So, I mean, how far back are we going to take the Marvel? Or are we going to go back to like the 1970s Captain America TV series or something? So
the best thing going on right now And I think one of the reasons why Marvel is doing so well is there's cohesion. Captain America stays Captain America, Iron Man stays Iron Man, Thor stays Thor.
Yep.
If they come out with a new Avengers and they have a new Thor, I could give a shit about Captain America, don't hate. But, one of the main, if they remove one of the main characters or replace them, it's just going to start, it's going to be like a photocopy of a photocopy for me.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, that's our half-an-hour discussion on Marvel. Russell, only have access to barbell right now. Alternative quad exercises with barbell besides squats. Front squats, Zercher squats, lunges. You can do step-ups with a barbell, but you got to be very, very careful. I've done them up to about a foot in height, but you trip. Look, you trip or stumble doing a step up with a barbell on your back, and it's bad news. Robert, any that you can think of?
Yeah, you can do landmine squats, so landmine front squats. This way, where you're holding the bar kind of underneath your chin level. You can also flip it around and face away from the barbell and just have it over your shoulder and kind of almost turn it into like a landmine hack squat. You can do split squats with the barbell, using it as either a landmine apparatus, or I guess you could, thread it in between your legs if you want to. Just watch out for, the twig and berries when you're doing those. Bulgarian split squats you can do. Basically, I mean, you can do a lot of shit. You just got to get as creative and be open to, maybe altering how you're using the barbell and be okay with something just aside from putting it across your shoulders.
All right, thanks, Robert. ERAF, creatine monohydrate makes me bloated and gives me the runs. Any suggestions? Is this normal?
I would first look at which brand of creatine monohydrate, just to make sure that you're using a good quality one. And because some of the really shitty qualities you'll find out if you did third-party testing on some of these bargain bin creatine monohydrate brands. It should be 99.9% creatine in there, but it's some sawdust, some silica, some other chalk dust in there. So first off, check that. My next thing would be, what dosage are you taking? Or, just stick with the 5 grams at a time. Don't worry about doing 20 grams in a day or anything like that. And you could even back it down to 3 grams, and then eventually you'll reach saturation. It'll just take you a little bit longer. You could also try messing around and taking it with food. That might help too. If you're taking it on an empty stomach, maybe having some carbs will help with it, especially post-workout. And avoid taking it with magnesium, just because that might just give you the runs, because taking too much magnesium at once it makes everybody have to go take a shit.
All right, Stan, I'm dealing with stiff neck and stress neck. Feels like I am weak in my neck. How should I start training neck muscles safely? Look, neck training, to me, you got to be really, really careful with. There's many things out there you can do, like neck bridges, and you can do they got the apparatus you can attach to your neck and stuff like that. I'm not an expert on neck training. The only thing I will say is you have to really, really be careful with your neck training. So do some research. Go very light. Don't go aggressive on your progression. And Robert, I don't know if you've ever messed around with any neck training. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I don't know if this is a good or bad thing to say, but fuck it, I'll say it. I have zero interest, a desire in training my neck, doing any kind of curl or the Jeff Nippert apparatus where you put it on your head and you do this shit the whole time. And I don't see that being of any benefit. I mean, I
would have a foundation of overhead presses and shrugs and stuff like that. My neck is huge, right?
Yeah.
Never done direct neck training. Things like forearms and neck. People will ask me, like, how do I get a bigger neck? How do I get bigger forearms? You basically just have to strengthen the entire body, and they're going to come around. Beyond that, if you want additional neck training, I would seek out a YouTube channel that's more educated than these two knuckleheads, myself and Robert, on neck training, because we're certainly not an expert.
Yeah.
Ethan, opinions on Wendler 5.3. Well, I'm going to let you start on this, Robert, if you have any opinion at all, or don't give a shit.
I mean, I know it's been around forever, and it's a popular entry program into the powerlifting world. I've never used it, so I can't speak from personal experience on the quality of the program.
It is a program that has evolved over the years. I do not keep up on the current iterations and information. I have some inside information because I know who wrote the book. And I'm not going to say any more than that, but the gentleman is no longer with us. He did get a prowler for writing the book. And I've talked to him on the phone about this. Just perks of being an editor and writer. That might be scandalous to someone, but it's just all I know. It's hearsay. It's opinion. It's probably not true. But look, people ask me about, I'm going to be honest. People ask me about Wendlers. People ask me about starting strength. They ask me about strong lifts. They're all fine programs. Do I believe they're the best program? No. If I believed they were the best program, I wouldn't have written my programs. So what I think is you go over to superlivingtoday.com. You hit up Massive Iron, my book, and I got 20 programs in there. If you do not like any of those, I got a million other free programs on the worldwide interwebs. It's a fine program. Any program will serve you well, but mine are far superior because I made them, and I will, stand behind that 99.7%. Because it's me. Stan, inverted rows. How wide grip do you suggest? Don't go super wide. Just natural, comfortable grip. You have to, you don't want to go narrow. You don't want to go too narrow because then you're getting this weird shoulder rotation. You don't want to go too wide because then you're getting a weird shoulder rotation. A wide grip will give you kind of internal shoulder rotation. A narrow grip will give you external shoulder rotation. Just feel natural. So, Robert, do you do inverted rows?
I love them. Yeah, that's I play around with your grip. The wider grip, like Steve said, you're also, if you're using a pronated grip and the wider you go, so pronated and wider grip, you're going to start hitting more of the rear delts with it. If you're going more neutral grip, it's going to be more of the mid back and lats, and under grip, you're going to recruit more of the biceps just to the natural orientation of your arms and everything. So, but play with all of them. What I really like to do is I've got a suspension trainer. So I've got a pair of dip bars that I also use as for inverted rows. And so that gives me, I can, do neutral grip. But what I've got is a suspension trainer that we'll hook up here out to the tree. And it's for anybody that wants to use it. It's the NOSK suspension trainer. NOSSK. It's super cheap. It is a piece of commercial climbing rope grade with 2 D handles on it, and it's also got the straps on. So if you want to put straps, I don't make any commission off of this, but it is super cheap, easily available, and really, really high quality. It's one of the best suspension trainers out there. And if you look at the Jungle Gym XT or the TRX, those things are like $80 to $120. This thing is $20 or $30 and does just as well as those things do. And you can slide it up and handle, and it's perfect. But what I like to do is I'll go to full extension and let my shoulder blades protract. And so my hands are out, if my hands are out like this and everything is protracted. And then as I pull in, I come in and, open up everything that way. So I'm going through a full pronation, a supination while we're going through it. So that's one of the benefits of having a suspension trainer and doing them. Obviously, if you're using a fixed bar like the dip bars I'm using, or a barbell, or a bar set in a Smith machine rack, you can't do that. But just play around with the grips and see which one works best for your anatomy.
Yeah, with inverted rows, you touch on a good point. You want to do them. I do them controlled, but I do them powerful, explosive.
Mm-hmm.
When I come down at the bottom, I control the eccentric. I control myself. So I'm at that full stretch, and then I explode myself up by driving my elbows back. One of the issues I have with inverted rows and pull-ups and chin-ups is people that stop them with the bent arms. I'm trying to figure out where my arm is.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Control the eccentric, get yourself into a good position. Don't put extra stress on the biceps, etc.
Right.
Eric, any thoughts, experience with Scott Stevenson's Fortitude training? That's a new name. Never heard of it. You ever heard of that, Robert?
Yeah. Dr. Scott, he's based out of Florida. I know I think he's done some work with the elite FTS guys. He's a bodybuilder. Good friend of John Meadows. And came up with this Fortitude training program. He worked with Dante Trudell in the dog crap, so he's a DC training disciple. Gotcha. And Fortitude training has been kind of built out of the DC stuff. So his thing is focuses on frequency. So the initial volume tiers, I believe, are 3 days a week, and that progresses to 4 days a week. Each day is a total body session. Now that doesn't mean you're doing you know, bench press, barbell row, barbell back squat, deadlift, overhead press, and then curls and kickbacks that time. So, I mean, you know, one day it modulates kind of like your heavy, light, medium, full body programs, Steve, that you've written. It's kind of like that, to where some days you'll have what he calls our muscle rounds, which are kind of like cluster sets. So you do 6x4. So you do 4 heavy reps, rest, you know, 4 to 5 breaths, do another 4 reps, rest 4 to 5 breaths, and do that. You do that 6 times. So there's an entire day of the week that is just devoted to muscle rounds. Another day you'll have loading sets, which, you know, so you might have a lower body loading day, which is going to be your 3 sets, your basic 3x10 on you know, you could be alternating between barbell back squats and leg press. And then within that day, you'll also have pump sets, which are up higher in the 15 to 25 rep range. So if your loading sets, your heavy days are lower body, then your pump sets are going to be your upper body. So you might be doing cable crossovers with some straight arm lat pull downs. And it you know, undulates throughout the week. So some days you'll have loading sets for just the quads, and then pump sets for the upper body. And then the next day it'll be loading sets for the upper body, and you'll have more of the pump and metabolic work for the lower body. So that's basically what it is in a nutshell. I mean, it's an interesting program. He really likes it. I know he's got it. Other people have worked at it and had experience and success with it. It's, if you like full body training and you like, you know, pushing, he's a big thing in pushing sets to failure, or, you know, a high degree of effort, lower volume, but more intensity. So if that jives with you, I think it's a solid program for that. It's more about fitting the program to what the individual's preferences are.
I'll have to look into it. Maybe I'll do an overview on this channel, or maybe we can do that together someday.
Yeah, I've had him on the podcast. Super nice guy and smart guy too.
I really like unique programs that have some thought into it. I mean, one of my favorite things in life is to try to piece together new ways of training, not to be cutting edge, but to give people different ways, you know, different options. And sometimes when you just get creative, you come up with something that is actually superior to what you've been doing before, and you just randomly pulled it out of your backside. So, Jim Bro, the new TMT is awful. I'll take your word for
Agreed.
it. When I read this name, I read it at poop at the door. I'm very sorry, but it is pop at the door. Will more heavy deadlift volume help me progress? I am not a big proponent of a lot of deadlift volume. I'm just not. And I don't believe in overworking the deadlift and the RDLs in concert. I believe in a more of a smaller amount of volume. I believe when it comes to the deadlift, we need to be more well-rounded. And that doesn't mean you can't have periods or cycles where you do more deadlift volume, but you need to really get your back strong. You need to really get your quad strong. You need to really get your yoke strong. You need to get everything, those specifically as strong as you can. And that will really help your deadlift. How much deadlift volume is too much? It really comes down to the individual. But I would err on the side of a little bit less than rather than a little bit more. But I have certainly had periods of time in my lifting training where I've done more volume. If you're going to do more volume, I'd rather have it be at a relatively lower intensity. Robert, any thoughts?
Yeah, something that, I mean, unless you're a competitive power lifter or strongman athlete, you know, diversify your training. Deadlifts are a real systemic stressor to the body, and will suck you dry faster than like a Singapore whore.
Yeah.
So, you know, just be careful with it. It's if you want to go and max out and do some heavy deadlifts each week, that's fine. There's also that I don't know how you feel about this, Steve. There's some thoughts out there that from some trainers and coaches that the deadlift is not that great of a hypertrophy exercise, just due to its, you know, lack of time under tension and how much fatigue it induces for how much stimulus it actually provides.
Yeah, well, you know, I will say I came out of the Weider era, and I didn't even know about the deadlift until 2006, 2007. So I built an incredible amount of muscle without the deadlift. If you're a straight bodybuilder, muscle builder, do you need to do it? No, I still usually advocate it for 2-3 sets a week. I'm big on rotating variations. So if you're going to do the deadlift, the average lifter could do the deadlift 1 week and the trap bar the next, the deadlift 1 week, the sumo the next, the deadlift 1 week, a low rack pull, block pull the next. But I think it has a lot of value in certain muscle groups. Like I believe it is a big contributor to my erectors and my trap development. But if you are just going for overall muscle mass, an argument can be made that you could probably get more out of dropping the deadlift and maybe shuffling things around a little bit. An argument could be made. I'm not saying we have a decisive opinion, but I would say that's a good argument.
Yeah.
All right. Poop at the door. Sorry, couldn't resist. I'm really trying to build a larger back and progress my deadlift. If you want to build a larger back, the main advice I can give you, and this is something the average trainee does not do, the average trainee has low standards. Most of us can do a lot more. We have to set our standards much higher for the back. I got up to 405 by 5 on the Pinwheel row. I got up to dumbbell rows like 270s by 10s. And for a long time, I thought 120 by 10 was the epitome of a dumbbell row. So what we really have to do is understand that our back is capable of so much more. Strap on some straps, VersaGrips, and get at it safely. Any thoughts, Robert?
Agreed. Yeah, and that just to build on our other thing, if you're going for back size, do a lot of different kinds of rows and pull-ups. Get really good at those and really strong on those, and you'll have a big back.
There's so many good back exercises. There really are. Barbell rows, dumbbell rows, seated cable rows, lat pull downs, pull-ups, machine rows, even pullovers. There's just such a good arsenal.
That and legs are my two favorite muscle groups to train. Everything else, if I never had to train any of those other things again, I don't know if I ever would. I like legs and back training that much. They suck when you're going through them, but the satisfaction from getting through a really, really difficult workout is very gratifying, I find.
Yeah, I like training back more than chest. So, Damien, I love Marvel as it is, but I had no experience with the comics or TV series before.
Blasphemy.
Yeah. All right.
Blasphemy, Damien.
To Wars has a bigger legacy and impact on the movie industry, though.
Star Wars has been around for almost 50 years. I mean, that's got to be considered in there too. The original Star Wars came out in 1977. If we're going to just think about the MCU, that was what, 2008 was the first Iron Man. Yeah,
it's Star Wars, things like Star Wars and Alien and Rocky and things that came out in the mid to late 70s. Yeah, they've been around forever. So they obviously have a bigger legacy in the movie industry.
Yeah.
Roberto, thoughts on combining bodybuilding and CrossFit hybrid workout throughout the week? Robert, go. I'll throw this one at you.
It always comes down to what is your goal and purpose for combining the two of them together. How much are you doing of each of one of those? So are you doing, 3 bodybuilding sessions a week and are you using the CrossFit as just kind of your conditioning workouts? That's fine. I mean, you could use your CrossFit workout as your conditioning instead of going for a long run or jog or elliptical session or something like that. That's fine. But you also got to look at your recovery capacity. So are you doing so much CrossFit that you're impeding your performance in the bodybuilding workouts and vice versa? Are you doing so much bodybuilding stuff that you're not able to complete the WODs to the fully extent that you would like to?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of CrossFit hate, and obviously some of CrossFit can be dangerous if you're doing complex exercises that require precise form and you're doing them for max reps over time. They can be inherently dangerous. Also, being a 250-pound guy and running ultra marathons can be dangerous. Climbing a mountain can be dangerous. Rock climbing without ropes can be dangerous. A lot of things can be dangerous, so use your own discretion. But you got to analyze goals, like Robert says. What's your primary goal? If it's hypertrophy, everything has to be framed around that, and everything else has to take that into consideration. Bennett Adventures, I think people forget if they have only a barbell set, they can do things like plate lateral raises, etc. Yeah, you absolutely can.
Yeah.
I give my clients with just a barbell some things like plate pushes and all kinds of interesting things. All right. The Marvel series I am referencing starts with Captain America, the First Avenger. All right. I'm gonna move on. No offense. I'm just gonna move on past some of the Marvel banter so we can keep this under 3 hours. So me and Robert can go pee before 1 o'clock. Nico, when starting first SARM cycle, how should I change my training? First off, you don't change your training. No matter what you're doing, your training is your training. Secondly, SARMs are a waste of money. Go, Robert.
Yeah, I'm not going to suggest, recommend, or anything regarding to SARM cycles. They are research chemicals. They lack considerable amounts of human evidence. Most of the stuff from them is based on animal models. We really don't have a full understanding of what or how they're working. And how long have you been training seriously and consistently? Have you really reached your genetic potential? Do you need to go on SARMs? And we also need to consider the source of, is it a reliable source that you even got these SARMs from? Because most of the internet dealers they're just giving you oral steroids. It's not actually a SARM.
Yeah, don't do this stuff. It's number one, it's illegal. Number two, there's no scientific backing. And number three, naturally, you can get all the size and strength you want. Don't go that route, really.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to dabble with SARMs, you might as well go talk to a doc about TRT or something. That's the way I look at it.
Go talk to a doctor about legal TRT. And I hate to go down that road, but don't spend your money on anything unproven and not legally sound.
Correct.
Alec, if my shoulder and traps are lagging, should I begin my upper days with those exercises? I'm going to share my opinion. What I do for my clients that are on an A-B type of split, they generally have chest and shoulders on the same day. So one day they start with a chest exercise like bench. The next day they start with military press. So I believe there's value in cycling that. Any thoughts, Robert?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I like starting one day with more of a horizontal focus and one day with more of a vertical focus. That's how I organized Sandy and I's training for our upper lower split that we run each week. I would say if something is a priority that you're trying to bring up a weak spot, then prioritize it in your training. The things that you do first in your workouts are the things that you're going to be able to exert the greatest amount of mental and physical strength and focus towards. So if you're really serious about growing your shoulders and traps, put those first on one of your upper body days.
I will say when anybody comes to me and says something is lagging, you need to dig deep, and you need to have somebody dig deep. And you can feel free to send me a message on Instagram, but I need to know where your strength levels are. I need to know what your workout looks like, etc. There's a lot of questions that need to be explored to truly understand if this is lagging or if you're just simply not giving it a full effort. And I don't mean to offend anybody by implying you might not be giving it a full effort, but you do need an experienced coach to look at your programming and to look at your numbers and say, you might be lagging because you're not up to speed on something.
Yeah. Steve, before you get to the next question, I'm looking down the list. Tillen's asking why are we skipping him. We're not skipping you. YouTube may not just be showing the question, so go ahead and type one of your other questions if you're still hanging around, Tillen.
Yeah, I mean, I mention this every YouTube, and thanks for pointing that out. YouTube is a really clunky, funky system, and every single live video, somebody's questions don't appear. We never skip a question. If it doesn't show up in the queue, we simply don't see it, and that's a glitch on YouTube. All right, Stan, I'm dealing with pain under both of my heels. Hurts when working out. How would you build leg muscles without adding pressure to the heels? I don't know the nature of the problem. And without knowing the nature of the problem, it's really, really difficult to answer. There are exercises you can do that aren't as taxing on the foot, obviously, like leg extensions.
Yeah.
But I could say lunges are less impactful overall than squats or deadlift or than leg presses, but I don't know if lunges hurt your heels. So we would need more information.
Yeah, it could be a bone spur or something like that. Go see a podiatrist or an osteopath or something like that.
Yeah,
Make sure there's no structural damage. And then as far as exercises, uh, leg extensions, leg curls. There's a spider climbing all over my laptop. Hold on.
hopefully it's radioactive.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Spider-Man was my favorite superhero growing up, so that'd be fitting. Leg extensions, leg curls. Both of those don't really put much pressure on the heels. You could also do something like a toes, a heel elevated squat or something where most of the pressure is on the ball of your feet, and that'll shift more focus onto the quads. But always first go check your doctor, physical therapist, podiatrist.
That's not normal, so go get it checked out.
Yeah.
Magnuson's 460 raw deadlift or Hess or Bjornson's 501 strapped and equipped deadlift. What's more impressive? Neither of them has surpassed the other's lift. I don't know. I mean, both of these are freakishly obscene numbers for me. So I don't, I respect both of them. Robert, do you have any opinion?
I don't think one is more impressive than the other. I mean, that's both much more weight than I think I would ever be able to lift in my life. So it's a physical freaky stat, which it's something to admire. It's lots of hard work, and you could say they might have had some enhancements or whatever, but I mean, still, it's not the enhancements doing the work. It's them putting in, a shit ton of hours training over years and years and years. So it's really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's like analyzing two different Major League Baseball players or two different NFL quarterbacks. They're both can be appreciated, and I appreciate both. KO, best exercises to build up the tricepticons. What are some of your favorites, Robert?
Dumbbell and barbell curls. Fuck triceps. Just go for the biceps.
Right. You caught me off guard a minute.
Yeah. I was making sure you're still awake. Dips are great. Push-ups are great. Close grip bench. Also make sure you're getting some overhead work too. So overhead extensions, overhead cable extensions. Tricep pushdowns are really good too, just to get it from all aspects. Those are my favorites. Easy bar, skull crushers are good. Bodyweight tricep extensions or bodyweight skull crushers are really good. I've started experimenting with those more now since we've got the suspension trainer. Those are kind of cool to do, although make sure you do those after your elbows are good and warmed up. If I do those too early in the training session, it bugs the piss out of my elbows.
I have freakishly sized triceps to the point where they make my arms look much bigger than they are. And people ask me what I do to train my triceps. 90% of that's genetics, and the other 10% is hard work. A well-rounded tricep program is going to involve a lot of horizontal and vertical pressing, military presses, a barbell and dumbbell variation,
yep.
Horizontal pressing, bench press, a dumbbell and barbell variation. Get as strong as you can on those. Obviously, that's not the be-all, end-all. You can look at somebody like Mark Lobliner, who's very strong on those and has small-ass triceps, and that's just a genetic thing. Beyond that, dips, close grip bench press, push-ups, cable tricep extensions. I have an exercise I do for pump called the Skull Destroyers. Just a well-rounded program.
Do you like floor presses, Steve? Either with dumbbells in a neutral grip and keeping your elbows really pinned to the side for the triceps, or not so much?
I just don't like floor presses because I'm like a turtle. I hate getting off the floor. So if you like them, get on the floor. If I'm going to get on the floor, it's going to be to tie my shoe or to take a nap or something.
That works.
Nico, thanks for answering. You're welcome, Nico. And Nico, please understand when we answer SARMs related questions, we're not picking on you. We're just trying to give you the best advice possible.
Look out for your long-term health.
Ben on Adventures, thoughts on lifting with no shoes. I've seen some advocate it. I mean, it's a question of some. I mean, 5 people in the history of the universe have, maybe one person in the history of the universe has gone throughout their whole life cycle of training without shoes. There's some people that advocate running without shoes and hiking without shoes. I call those people dumb, but I don't know. Lifting with no shoes, there's issues I have with it, especially if your feet get sweaty on some of the big lifts, like squats and deadlifts. That scares me. Any thoughts on that, Robert?
I mean, if I'm working out at home, I don't have an issue working out with no shoes on. But I mean, we've got mats or carpet. I mean, if I'm at the gym or somebody else's house or outside, I'm gonna have shoes on. So it's so plus it also kind of depends on what kind of workout you're doing. If I'm doing mostly like a body weight upper body workout where it's lots of dips, push-ups, inverted rows, and pull-ups, I mean, yeah, you don't need shoes for that. It's kind of workout specific, and the training circumstances in which you find yourself as well are going to factor into it.
If you're doing a big compound movement where you're standing, just be very cognizant of your feet. You do not want any 1% chance of slipping.
Right.
Pop at the door. I'm doing your old 4-day split from 2015. I'm not really sure if I'm doing pinwheel curls correctly. Should I do hammers instead? Pinwheels are basically like hammers. They're just a little bit more like this, right?
It's like a cross body movement than just a straight up and down like a hammer curl.
Yeah, it's a little bit more leveragey, a little bit more explosive, a little bit more momentum-y.
Okay.
You can send me a video on Instagram at Ben the Barman. I'd be happy to take a look. If you're unsure, do hammer curls. Riking. I'm having issues such as bloating and issues going to the bathroom. Do you think digestive issues can lead to not getting the full benefits from nutrients in foods? Food seems to just pass through.
Absolutely. Any kind of GI distress could certainly reduce nutrient absorption. That's something that you should probably go see a gastroenterologist about.
Yeah, and I'll also end cap that. I had somebody come to me that was complaining about digestive issues.
Yeah.
And I said, clean your diet up 100% and see if it improves.
Yeah, definitely. And there might be certain fibrous foods that don't agree with you. Find other replacements for them. So if broccoli and cauliflower, tear your gut to shreds, maybe try something like spinach, something that's got a little bit lower, less of the FODMAPs in it.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously have to get this checked out, but it would also be beneficial to do some plug and play. Get your diet completely clean. When I eat too much spinach, when I eat too much like black rice, it blows me out.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to kind of remove some of the pieces of the puzzle a little bit and see see if you can figure out what's aggravating you.
Definitely.
But if your diet's not clean, if your diet's not really reasonably clean, you can't expect your digestive system to cooperate. So look at that first. Jack, I'm currently 172 pounds at 13% with 1 year of proper training. Would you recommend I eat in a surplus? Yes, you're not going to gain a pound a month unless you eat in a surplus. So you want to adjust your calorie intake very slowly upwards until you're in about that range. Yeah. And understand when you adjust calories upwards, initially you might see a little extra water weight gain the first couple of weeks. Any thoughts, Robert?
Yeah, when you're trying to assess weight gain, look at it from like a weekly average. So weigh yourself every day, but then at the end of that 7-day period, take an average and then look at those averages at the end of the month. And if you see it trending up that way, because weight can fluctuate, up or down 3 to 5 pounds just based on water weight, sodium levels that you've had from the previous day, how many carbohydrates you've had, all of that good stuff. So be consistent with how you're weighing yourself. So preferably after, you use the bathroom first thing in the morning and just your underwear or a pair of shorts or something. And then take that weekly average and then see how it's trending upwards or downwards.
We're almost done here. Robert, I appreciate you hanging tough. For my clients, I don't even worry about their weight until the end of the second month. And then if they haven't gained after 2 months, then we'll do an adjustment.
Yep.
KO, Zercher versus back squats. I will give you my answer, then I'll toss it over to Robert. Whenever you are considering an either or, the answer is probably both. Robert, any thoughts?
They both work for you. I mean, they both work the squatting pattern. It depends on how beat up your your forearms feel if you want to do it. I would almost use the Zercher, I guess, as an auxiliary to the back squat, because if you try to use that first in your workout, the sheer amount of weight that you're having to hold in the crooks of your arms is going to be a bitch.
I agree with you, Robert. There's some exercises where they take a physical toll on the body that prevents you from reaching your full capacity on that exercise.
Right.
There are some freaks that can do Zerchers really, really easily. They kill me. And the most I've ever tried was a 4 or 5 Zercher, and that was enough that I could, I was after that.
Yeah, I'd almost prefer a leg press to a Zercher squat, or a heavy Bulgarian split squat to a Zercher.
They're fun to play around with. They're no replacement for back squats, but I would add them in addition to back squats just to see what you think.
Yeah.
Best exercise for the brachialis.
Close grip overhand pull-ups are really good. I like those. That always gets me right in the meat there. Also, reverse grip curls are good, or hammer curls are all really good.
I will say when I was at my strongest in bench and not doing any arm work, I noticed I picked up strains in this particular muscle a lot when I was benching, just from lack of overall bicep focus. So a little bit goes a long way on the biceps. Yeah. Last question, Robert, from Stefano. Stefano, your T-shirts are in the mail. Stefano ordered some T-shirts from my site, superlivingtoday.com. Right there.
Yeah, and I just finished a supplement assessment for him this past week too. We were emailing back and forth, and so thank you, Stefano, for jumping in on that, man. I hope I helped.
Yeah, and I apologize for the T-shirts taking so long. The company that was doing them, was impacted by COVID-19. He lives in Hawaii, so it took. Normally, it takes like a week for my shirts to get out, but it took a lot longer this time. I got the word today. Gym's opening in Hawaii on June 19th. I'm really glad there's some light at the end of the tunnel. All right, guys, that is it. I appreciate you tuning in. If we missed your questions, you can head over to Instagram at Ben the Barman or at the Supplement Engineer. Slide into our DM and send your question. Head over to my website, superlivingtoday.com. Robert does supplement assessments. If you want to stop wasting your money on supplements, this is a good service. And you can find Robert at the Supplement Engineer on YouTube, Instagram, and his amazing podcast. And before we go, thoughts on Alpha GPC for strength?
We covered that. It's the same one by Madvilles or Madevilles, Mad Devils.
Was this a repeat, or did he miss?
Yeah, it's a repeat. We answered it. It's just as a recap. I like it more for its cognitive boosting properties, and that may allow you to be a little bit more focused during training and thus exert more strength on the bar. There's a couple of studies showing improved vertical jump performance and overall strength output. I'd like to see more data before I really classify Alpha GPC as a strength boosting ingredient.
All right. Thanks, Robert. See you next Friday. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and DL comes in with the parting shot. Don't eat eggs, kids. Go vegan. All right. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.
Bye.